And Ashley, your mic is live, and Chris, your mic is live.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Staff does not have any additional comments to provide, but will highlight a few points. The proposed temporary use application seeks to permit non-accessory parking at the northwest corner of 12800 Rice Mill Road to provide 21 additional parking spaces for the employees of 12020 and 12040 number 5 Road for a period of 3 years. The proposed temporary use is consistent with the OCP designation of industrial. The subject area currently contains an unauthorized asphalt and gravel parking pad with vehicle access provided from the lane east of 12020 number 5 Road. As part of this application, RMA restoration works are proposed along the north property line of the parking area. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions of committee? See a motion then, moved, seconded. All those in favor, contrary carried. Thank you very much, both of you. And the next item is the application by Ziegler Architect for rezoning at 11771 Fenneman Place from a healthcare HC zone to healthcare ZR13 Fenneman Place in bracket Steveston zone. And we've got Sarah and Andrew presentation. This item is to be just a process if we can. This item is to be introduced and given first reading. From here, just for the public, and welcome you all, by the way, for here, it would go to council, and then from council, it would go to public hearing 1 month from now. And the date staff will give us that one on it, so that's the procedure. Okay, so you're on. Again, your mics are live. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chair and councillors, the report before you today recommends support for a rezoning application for a Vancouver Coastal Health Authority site to allow the replacement of a previous 7-story major healthcare facility with a new 8-story major healthcare facility designed to current standards. The new facility provides for additional capacity and additional community support uses. Some of the highlights of the proposal include within the 8-story institutional building, 144 long-term care rooms, 14 hospice care rooms, community care support services, including adult daycare, child care, and support spaces and accessory uses. Parking and loading provided on the ground floor and parking in an underground parking level. A required servicing agreement securing the design and construction of works, including the installation of sidewalk and boulevard along Fenton Place, park interface works, and sanitary storm and water infrastructure works. The retention of 2 trees on site is proposed and 2 city trees in the city boulevard along Fenton Place, and the retention of hedges for privacy along the north and west property lines adjacent to neighboring properties. The subject site, as I'm sure the subject site, as we are all aware, was previously developed in approximately 1970 with a 7-story building with approximately 144 seniors housing units, then called Lions Manor. The building was later repurposed for long-term health care for up to 129 patients and remained a healthcare facility until its demolition in 2015. The current site is vacant. Public input, significant public input, was received before the staff report was completed and is included in staff report attachments. Staff received public correspondence and a petition regarding the rezoning application. Before rezoning application was submitted to the city, Vancouver Coastal Health mailed information regarding the proposal to neighboring properties and provided the city with a summary report, which is also attached. As part of the rezoning application process, Vancouver Coastal Health again hosted a meeting, reaching out to neighboring property residents and provided the city again with a summary report, which is also attached. After the date of the report, the city's clerk's office has also received additional public correspondence in support of the rezoning application. So in total, to date, I believe, and this is some mad calculations up till minutes ago, I believe we've received 25 letters of support from 15 Richmond households, 4 Richmond organizations, a Richmond MLA and resident, Vancouver Coastal Health Physicians, and the BC Seniors Advocate. We've received 57 form letters of support from the Maples residents, family, and a staff member. We've received 5, and as noted in the rezoning staff report, we received 5 letters opposing the application received from 4 Richmond households. And in addition, a petition opposing the application with signatures from an additional 102 Richmond households. In attendance in the audience today, I'm aware that Vancouver Coastal Health Authority, their consultant Make Projects, community group Jewish Seniors Alliance, and the Maples Residences representatives have requested the opportunity to address Planning Committee today. There may be other members of the audience today who'd like to delegate to committee, but I have been made aware of those particular individuals. Thank you, and I'm available to, of course, to answer any questions.
Floor is open to committee. Anything? All right, seeing none at the moment, we do have 2 to 3 delegations. Okay, thank you, staff. Appreciate it. I ask Vancouver Coastal Health, come forward. You have a presentation for committee. I appreciate it. And we have 2 delegations from the community, and please be on deck. Okay. All right, introduce yourselves, and let's hear your presentation.
Thank you. On behalf of Vancouver Coastal Health, I just would like to thank Mayor and Council, the City of Richmond, for inviting me and the project team to speak about this exciting redevelopment of Richmond Lions Manor, the landmark in Steveston, and answer any questions you have. My name is Joanne Tate. I serve as the Vice President for Vancouver Coastal Health's Richmond community, and I'm the executive sponsor for this project. And I'm here with my Chief Projects Officer.
Yeah, I'm Darren Bryson, Chief Project Officer. I'm with Make Projects, consultant to Vancouver Coastal Health.
Okay, thanks for being here. Carry on.
So we are quite excited to share with you really the impetus behind us coming to you today in support of not just building another building. We're finally creating the environment where we have heard from hundreds of seniors over the last 2 decades in terms of what they want when they are faced with having to consider long-term care as the place for them to receive healthcare needs. And what comes first and foremost is the ability to not just have their healthcare needs met, but to live in a place where autonomy, independence, and choice are held upmost. Part of what we are trying to do with this development is implement the design guidelines that Vancouver Coastal Health actually led. We went around the world for leading practices, including the dementia model from De Hoogwe in the Netherlands. We visited places around the world for inspiration, and we have brought back the small household design that fundamentally shifts from the institutions of traditional long-term care, of long hallways, very tall buildings, and not a lot of ability for residents to leave, to be able to have their own resident-directed care, to be able to engage in the community and the community to come into these sites as well. We also learned a lot from the pandemic in terms of what goes on in long-term care, and we've also incorporated a lot of the infection control practices that are also incorporated in the small households. These small households have 12 people who are living in private rooms with private bathrooms. They have a small kitchen and as well as living spaces for people to come together. And for me, being a nurse for almost 30 years, I have strongly advocated for a change in these physical designs of our buildings and care models, led pilots that have actually tested these, and we've seen, as I've been part of some of our publicly funded redevelopments across this province, who have been successful in opening these buildings. I have seen the firsthand impact of residents who have been living and spending time and years in previous long-term care homes and thriving in this newer model. I do want to emphasize that while we have made our business case, and it's taken us about a decade for us to find, receive, and secure provincial funding for this redevelopment, we are one of many long-term care homes across this province who are absolutely dying for the opportunity to have received the type of provincial funding that we have received. As Council knows, Richmond is one of the fastest growing seniors populations in British Columbia, and our bed demand far exceeds the number of long-term care homes that we have right now. In Richmond, we have 890 publicly funded long-term care beds, but by the time 2029 rolls around, which is when we're anticipating, if all goes to schedule, of this new development being built, the demand will be 1,231. That leaves us with a bed gap of 283 long-term care beds. And we anticipate by 2040, which is not that far away, the demand is going to grow to a gap of 933 beds. That is actually more than the actual beds we have right now of long-term care publicly funded. We hear on a regular basis our caregivers who are feeling and really holding that burden of caring for loved ones at home because they do not have access into long-term care because of the lack of beds. They are exhausted, they are burnt out, and part of our seniors advocate, Dan Levitt, in his recent report From Shortfall to Crisis, the growing demand for long-term care beds in BC, he reminds me that our target for opening this development was in 2028, so we are already behind the 8 ball in this one. Part of what we have designed in terms of not just long-term care beds in this facility is also the supports for people to be able to age in place in the community. So our adult day program, where community members can bring in their loved ones during the daytime, overnight respite, again for caregivers who are burnt out and want to spend time having their loved one cared for in a safe way, is where we are trying to invest more, and it's beyond just long-term care, it's supporting the bed gap by being able to support people to have their loved ones at home. The other issue for us is the ability to recruit and retain staff. 40% of Vancouver Coastal Health staff that work in Richmond live outside of the Vancouver Coastal Health geography. So for us to have innovative models where we attract staff and physicians, and I'm joined by my physician colleagues here today, our ability to have something that is cutting edge, that is invigorating, that brings energy to not just the type of care, but innovation and research to where we are going, is something that will recruit and retain our staff. This also goes hand in hand with what we've heard from our staff in terms of the need for childcare spaces. And in this application, we have an additional 37 childcare spaces. And those are what we hear in terms of having flexible childcare to meet the demands of shift workers who work 24/7 and being able to be creative around supporting their needs. And I'll hand it over to Darren.
Thank you. I know time's limited, I just have a few points. Okay. So I just wanted to start by saying that we have, the design that you have that's referred to in the staff report is already undergone and incorporates extensive community impact considerations. And just with the programming that's involved in the project, the 8th story isn't optional. It's required to meet the current healthcare design standards, as well as the improved programming that goes along with operating under the social model of care. So the project team's already optimized the height, the massing, and design to minimize community impacts while still meeting modern clinical and safety requirements. So sending the project back to staff wouldn't produce any new design options while meeting the requirements. It would just delay the urgently needed capacity in the community. Second part I wanted to highlight is that in the traffic, we have traffic, parking, and construction concerns. We've heard through the dialogue with the consultation process, and we've met all off-site parking requirements to the bylaw requirements with an underground parkade. So there's, even though people in this facility won't be driving, we're going to have bylaw requirements met. We've studied it in the existing road network and support the development with the additional traffic. In addition, the staff report references that we are going to upgrade all the sidewalks, the park pathways, the frontage improvements that will improve safety as well as accessibility. We'll comply with all construction, parking, and traffic management plans. And just because of brevity here, I'm just gonna one more point here, is that this delay, if there is one, to this project could jeopardize the provincial funding and Richmond's ability to secure this long-term care facility. There is an acute shortage in Richmond that I think Joanne has articulated, but that's also across the province. Not every community has had theirs approved for funding. And the Ministry of Health and Vancouver Coastal Health will allocate capital to regions based on readiness and approval times. So Richmond has strong competition from other communities articulating urgent need in their communities as well. So I just wanted to highlight that because any risk to the delay of the project will risk the funding. And we'd like to move forward. And I guess just the last point I want to say is that the replacement building is consistent with the previous building that was there. The original building that was there was 7 stories and 144 beds. What we're proposing is not an out-of-character development. It's an updated, modernized replacement of the former Lions Manor with new and improved. So I just finally wanted to conclude by saying we spent years, it has been years, designing this facility. We've spent quite a bit of money on this with immense care, not only to meet the complex clinical requirements, but also to respect the neighborhood. The building's massing, traffic solutions, parking strategy, and community programming have all been developed in direct response to public input and the city's planning guidance. So staff have confirmed these solutions are sound. Delaying this project will now not produce new design options. It will only stall the urgently needed capacity that the Richmond community needs. So thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Do we have any specific questions? All right. Carol, just a minute. All right. Yep, Carol?
Hi, thank you. I'm just looking at our page 103, it's a notification area. So you sent notices out to all the residents who live inside this red square. It appears that a lot of that is the school ground, and Steveston Park. So did you ever count up to see how many residents are actually affected or in this notification area?
Yeah, we did, and we complied with the City of Richmond requirements. It's 200 meters from the door front is what the requirements are, and we've met that requirement. And we did actually look at who was within that envelope to confirm that it was appropriate. And we were compliant.
Isn't this approximately the densification of the area that was there when the original Lions Manor was still standing?
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
it's not like
About the
it's expeditiously grown, it's about the same size.
It's about the same size, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Alexa?
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you for the presentation. A couple questions. So it says you have a daycare in it. I'm wondering help me understand how that integrates with this program.
Yeah, so part of being one of those innovative models is understanding the benefits of intergenerational programming with seniors and young kids. There's something magical that happens, especially with seniors who maybe don't have the fortune of having their young kids around, grandkids maybe far away, families are now living farther apart, as well as people with dementia might lose the ability to talk. But there's something where I've witnessed firsthand when we've had daycares co-located within a long-term care facility, and the magic that happens when people are connecting across the generations like that. We've recently, actually in 2 of our long-term care homes here in Richmond, opened an opportunity for staff during the summertime to bring their children in a supported way to have a week-long day camp. And for staff to actually be able to support their own kids when they know they're working, they're worrying about, are they eating, are they getting to everything they need to, are they getting into trouble? Be able to have their children right there and see the joy that's brought to seniors, it's worth its weight in gold. So for us, this is not just meeting a staff need, but it's actually the programming of what adds and enhances care for residents. And in my opinion, what I have heard from family members, it actually increases the compassion for younger children to have an appreciation of seniors. Because I think we're losing some things and we're seeing a lot more ageism these days. And this is bringing back the compassion to what seniors need.
Thank you. A second question, if I may. It talks about retail space. Why do you need retail space?
So in most of our long-term care homes, for seniors to leave the care home, it's actually quite a challenge, right? Especially if they're wheelchair bound, they're having to coordinate transport. For the most part, the retail space is for the people who are living within the care home. It's for the ability for people to feel like they're still doing normal things, doing normal life. They're getting out, they're spending a little bit of money that they have, they're having that autonomy. There are opportunities, though. I would like this care home where we see the most success of people from the community actually coming into a long-term care home. During the pandemic, we learned that neighbors had no idea what went on in a long-term care home that was literally across the street from them because they had never set foot inside. So for us, we also want the ability for people to come from across the street, from within the community, grab a cup of coffee, sit down, maybe include some volunteerism that can happen with this ability, have the kids from McMath come down, look at the cross-programming that can happen, grab a pop from our cafe, that type of, so this is what we're talking when we talk about retail. It's not a massive save on foods. This is really something that is fairly contained, fairly small, but it offers a little bit of normal life within a care home.
Okay, and did I hear, I think I heard some sort of story about people being able to buy some vegetables and then go upstairs and be engaged in the production of their own meals. Did I hear something about this at some point?
You absolutely did. So modeled after the Dementia Village, what we know in long-term care right now, we tend to do everything for residents who live in long-term care. So they come to us and we provide all their meals, we clean all of their rooms, we do all of their laundry, and then we worry why they're falling asleep in their wheelchairs and worry that we don't have enough activities to keep them busy. In this model, we're actually starting to go back to what people were able to do in whatever that capacity is right before they moved into long-term care. So the ability to be part of food preparation, maybe not from start to end, but I've seen people with dementia who look like they are disengaged from the world around them, and I placed a potato in their hand and a potato peeler, and there's something about that remote memory, even with their dementia, that comes back, and their ability to continue to contribute has blown the minds of family members and caregivers. So for me, it's bringing back the normal life, moving away from that institutionalized care, and having people be part of the community regardless of how old, what their disease is, right up until their dying days.
So living is the activity.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Your Worship,
Yeah, through you, just a quick question. As I understand it, the old Lions Manor, it just basically fell apart. It's been demolished. The residents who were there and the services provided went to Bridgeport. So with the building of this new facility, what becomes of Bridgeport?
So that is something that we are talking about right now in terms of, because of our bed gap, we need to look at other solutions as well. We've just started the conversations. We are competing for provincial funding, of course, and the prioritization of that. They're wanting to see if we're going to make our deadlines and our timelines in terms of getting this building open. If it was up to me, we would continue to keep Bridgeport open for healthcare needs, whether it's a long-term care population or another population. The gap is too big for us to be able to spend another 10 years to build another long-term care facility. So we will need to have as much care provided, and that site is a place that Vancouver Coastal Health has invested dollars to upkeep as much as we can, and we'd like to keep it continued. But of course, you know, we're leasing it from Town Line at the moment.
All right, so right now you're undecided as to the fate of Bridgeport.
Correct.
Mr. Chair, maybe you could comment. I just wonder if we should, if this goes through today, we should add to that, sending letters to Vancouver Coastal Health and the MLAs about keeping the Bridgeport facility operating as it is. So these are new beds, not just the replacement beds.
yes, I think we can make that as item number 2.
Yeah.
And give direction at the appropriate time. Okay, anything else? Councillor Hobbs? I'll move that addition. Okay, second.
Well, there's nothing on the floor.
Let's wait. There are a whole slew of things, I think. Andy?
Thank you, and through the chair. Thanks for being here, and a very comprehensive report. I do want to just acknowledge the communication piece and the open houses that took place. I did go to one, and there was a really good exchange of information. I know it's contained in the report, but I would like to hear you just comment on a couple aspects of the report, and those are some of the concerns that we heard from the community. When you talk about shadowing, for instance, with the structure, it's a little bit taller, a little bit bigger footprint, but it does a lot more than the old building does, as you've already commented on. So if you just comment a little bit on that, and it's, I think, on page 44 in the report, but people listening or people here perhaps haven't read it. And the setbacks and the impact of having the, you know, the lower stories at the front and the tower pushed back to the south. And that's reducing the impact of shadowing for one thing. And just comment on the setbacks, the shadowing, and some of the other techniques or practices that are being used to enhance privacy, such as trees and hedges and that kind of thing. Because that's an important part, I think, for the community in that area.
Yeah, I can, so I guess we heard through the community consultation that shadowing was an issue. We have refined the design massing of the building. We moved where we had a larger component of the massing on the north side of the property, and we did daylight studies. And an outcome of that, it was to move the massing more to the south so that we would not have casting any shadows on people's properties, basically. So we were successful in being able to minimize the amount of shadowing that would be, impacting the surrounding community. We are going to be retaining vegetation on site, the hedges to the north, in order to help break up the impact of sight lines into an impact on the north side of the property. We've also oriented the building in a like an L configuration. It's like a bent configuration in order to maximize the sight lines to open spaces and not directly into the residents that are to our west and north and even east. So we're thoughtful in terms of how we've oriented the building in terms of sight lines. We've also increased the height of the podium. So we've got a T podium that lifts up some of the patios. And so that all that was to also lift up the sight lines and conceal so that we're not having an impact on the sight lines to the adjacent neighborhood that's at that single story elevation. We've enclosed the loading docks to have areas that are completely enclosed underneath a parkade or sorry, the building, so that it is minimized in terms of noise as well as sight. We've have careful screening on both the patios and done sight line analysis on the outdoor spaces, as well as the west property line, to have screening so that there wouldn't be any sight lines. What else have we done? We've done acoustical kind of considerations and where we're locating equipment so that we'll minimize the amount of acoustics that's being generated. All the mechanical and electrical equipment's going to be indoors for the most part, so that they won't be outside like you would typically see on some buildings on the outside of the building generating noise. So we've taken quite a bit of effort and analysis, and we've hired the requisite professionals to go through and do the simulations so that we can minimize the input that we've heard from the community in terms of their major concerns.
Yeah, thanks for that. And just through the chair, last comment. Yeah, that's a really great explanation of a lot of detail. And you mentioned the noise reduction aspects to it as well. And I think just to confirm that the setbacks of the building, and it's kind of a unique shape, that's been maximized to the benefit of the privacy of the neighborhood around it. And I don't think it can be done anymore. Am I right about that?
Yeah, we've repositioned the building as much as we can, and we are right up against all of those constraints, but we've thoughtfully brought back the setbacks to be able to minimize that shadowing and sight lines.
Yeah,
So
just
there's-
one last,
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Last comment through the chair. One aspect I really like, and it has a lot of features that the old building didn't have, but the daycare for shift workers. Being somebody that worked shift work, that's a very difficult thing for people that work shift work to find daycare, especially when you have rotating days and when you're working nights, for instance. So I think that's a great addition. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just going to make a comment too. I'm very impressed with what I've heard from you, and it appears to me that you mentioned this model, and it appears to me that you are addressing many of the issues of seniors that have not been addressed in one site all at one time, and especially like adult daycare, for example. I've been advocating that for Hugh Boyd in our new community building at Blandell and Francis, where we need to get into those kinds of issues, et cetera. Would the public be allowed, for example, like the adult daycare, given maybe childcare wasn't full or whatever, that the public will be able to utilize it as well and come in and say, because nothing is better than be able to drop off a loved one under good care and come back and have a couple of hours rest if you wish. I have many friends that have mates who are have dementia or Alzheimer's and what have you, and they don't see anybody. So.
Yes. So absolutely, the beauty of this model is flexibility. And when we build and envision, we want this to be a vibrant, thriving community where community actually comes in and use spaces. We have rooms that are designated as, meeting rooms for family meetings, talking about care needs, but there's nothing stopping us from those rooms also being rooms, say, if some of the kids from high school want to practice their musical instruments and come in, or an adult day program that is actually closes in the evening time. If there's evening use that the community would like to use that space, we want the community in here. It adds to the robustness of what people need is life and vibrancy around them.
That's encouraging to hear a true community model. I have Councillor Glanders on the line. Laura, can you hear us?
Yes,
You're
I can.
on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you so much for your presentation and being here to answer everyone's questions and explaining everything so well. I remember when we first, when I first heard about the project a few years ago, when I was first elected, there was the Fentiman discussions, and you went a little more into detail about why the height has to be there and why this density works for the model. And you mentioned it that, sending it back and going lower wouldn't change anything, that it has to be this way. But I thought it might be helpful for the public to hear what it is about it that has to be that way. A little bit of an elaboration on the model and why the density works exactly the way it is.
I can start. I think it has a balance between operations and the form and function of the building. So we talked about already the need to respect sight lines and views and shadowing. So that dictates a lot of the massing of the building and informed a lot of how it utilizes the site. The second thing is that the podium, there's a lot of programming with the child care, adult day program, and a lot of the common spaces on the main level, as well as all the the loading dock and material movements, as well as the hospice on the second floor. That takes up a lot of, and third floor, it takes a lot of real estate on that main floor. We've got 6 stories of the actual residence rooms above that, and they're built around a model of care that requires the space standards and circulation that's required for that footprint of the building. We tried to minimize that for cost considerations as well as everything else. But the height, and you can't separate the households. I don't know if you have more to say on that.
Just to further add, so the model itself is moving away from what looks like an institution. If you walk into most long-term care homes right now, you will see a nursing station that is front and center. So even though I'm trying to live in a home, it doesn't feel like home because there's this nursing station. In this design, which by the way has been shared and adopted provincially, it's also been shared nationally, and now we're getting requests for it internationally for publicly funded long-term care. It puts the care home front and center, and it has aspects such as a soiled utility room where, human waste and things like that are all back of the house. Residents don't have to see that, they don't have to smell that. And so the design itself, we have incorporated it, but operationally we have 2 households of 12 individuals who will live there. And from a care model aspect, in terms of the number of care aides, the number of nurses that we have, and the number of people that we need covering the households, staff can move between these households in this design. That makes it very efficient in terms of trying, again, with public funding, to have enough staff, but not so sparse that any risk for safety is compromised in this type of a model.
I just wanted to also just state that the climate resiliency requirements for this building, as well as the infection control and current clinical requirements for mechanical and electrical systems are so much more now compared to 1970 when the original building was built. So that drives a lot of floor-to-floor heights, as well as mechanical, like the gross up factor of the building as well for mechanical and electrical spaces.
And one final comment. When the original building was built, people who were entering long-term care, we used to have parking stalls for residents. So when you think about the changes that have happened to people who actually live in long-term care now, and the circumference for their wheelchairs, for added equipment, for oxygen concentrators, for all of the pieces that are needed, makes for these requirements to have larger rooms in addition to the configuration that we are proposing.
Yes, that all makes sense. Thank you. A lot more service and a lot more requirements on not much more space. Well done. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any questions? You're done.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd like to ask the next delegation, Sharon Gill and Donna Sargent, to come forward. You have 5 minutes. And your mics are live.
Thank you. I'm Sharon Gill. I'm the chair of the Maples Seniors Housing Board of Directors. Donna Sargent is my colleague here with me today. She's the vice chair. And we also have in the audience Michelle Bisio, another director, and we have our general manager, Rob Bretley, and our assistant manager, Hin Faraj, as well as a number of our residents. They're excited. We're excited by this prospect. So first of all, thank you for allowing us to come and speak tonight. And also, we want to acknowledge the thought that the provincial government has put forward with this plan. We know how many people are looking for housing for people, and we have an opportunity. So we want to thank them for that, for bringing it to Richmond, and for Richmond accepting that. We are so impressed with the design. We had a presentation, and the design, the model of care is what we would all want for our families and for ourselves. We're here because we're concerned about the number of people that don't have housing, long-term care housing. We hear from our residents, our staff, and our community that the need is actually overwhelming. Our residents, their families, and many members call Steveston home. They want people to age in home in the community. We were honored to have Dan Levitt come and present to our board a couple of weeks ago and to our residents. His statistics are overwhelming. I'm sure you've all seen his report. If you haven't, we've brought copies for you. We're happy to share. We need to act now. At the Maple residence, we currently have 10 people waiting for long-term care housing. And the list of waiting is anywhere between 4 and 6 months. So these people are in dire need. The number represents 10% of our building capacity. This is an enormous strain on the physical, mental, and financial well-being of the individual themselves, their families, their caregivers, our staff, and we need to do something with this. The domino effect is absolutely overwhelming. The number of people that go into the hospital and take up beds, because when they're ready to be discharged, there's no place for them to go. They come back to the Maples, but it's not meant as a long-term care facility. That adds more strain to our staff, to the residents again, and to the individual that comes to a place that's not prepared for them to meet the best of their needs. We need to do this now. Donna?
Yeah, thank you. And just a reminder that the Maples is independent living, so this puts even more challenges. We don't have medical staff that can help the residents if they do come back, when they do come back. So over the past year, over 20 Maple residents have waited for a long-term care bed, with another 19 waiting for assisted living, with an average of a 6-month wait list. They often have little to say where they are going to eventually end up, or be placed, and it can be miles away from family, friends, familiar surroundings. A campus of care in Steveston, Richmond is critical to ensure that as needs change, there is a smooth transition from independent living to assisted living to long-term care. Our seniors want, need, and deserve the opportunity to age in place. We feel this campus of care will be a lighthouse and a shining star for the residents of Steveston and the residents of Richmond. The time to act is now. The demographic shift is here. The wait lists are growing. Our seniors cannot wait another year, another month, or another season. They deserve the right care in the right place at the right time. And we believe that in Steveston, that is their home. That is the right place. This is the need. This is the time. And we really want to thank you. Our purpose of coming today was to share the hard go it is for our staff to care for our seniors who deserve the very best from us. And we just think this project is absolutely unbelievable. And again, we were so impressed with the presentation. To have something like that in Richmond would be so outstanding. And so we believe that all the other things can be worked on, and we believe that the Richmond residents and all the Maple seniors behind us deserve the very best. So we appreciate you hearing and listening to us, and thank you for having us today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, the next delegate, that's all. The next delegation is Ann Chetwynd coming forward. You have 5 minutes as well.
Good afternoon. I'm Ann Chetwynd, co-chair of the Maple Residents Committee. I'm here to give you a glimpse into my experience of the availability of long-term care beds in Richmond. We were middle-class parents with 2 grown boys, Hugh and Brian, both university grads now. Rick owned a small business and I had a communications job and was previously a massage therapist. Rick was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in 2016. I discovered a benign brain tumor and breast cancer at the same time in 2018. The neurosurgeon said on the scale of 1 to 10 of danger and difficulty of removal, my meningioma was a 10, but I survived. I had to. Our son Hugh in Richmond was the main help, taking leave of work numerous times. Finally, he said, sell the house and move to Steveston. We did, and then to the Maple 8 months later, having been 18 months on the wait list. Rick needed personal care help, 6 hours a week times $40 an hour to start with. If you need night care, it's a 12-hour shift. Do the math. And remember, you don't know how long you'll wait for long-term care. Also, I was very sleep deprived. Take care of yourself, the doctors told me, but it's incredibly hard to be a partner and a caregiver and a patient at the same time for a long time. More than a year later, there were not enough LTC beds in Richmond to meet the demand. We residents and families are not well versed in how much we may have to contribute financially to our advancing years. In this case, because one cannot guarantee progress from independent living through to long-term care exactly when you need it, you wait. A friend told me of a private retirement home with LTC beds, but the cost was approximately $20,000 a month. Since we had sold our house, Rick moved into a lovely room where the sun came shining in. He lived there somewhat contentedly for 8.5 months when he survived a fever, but his quality of life prospects were gone. We chose the LTC palliative care program over going to the hospital, assured of the familiar surroundings and caregivers Rick knew, rather than possibly a hallway in emergency. On Father's Day 2023, Rick's birthday, he passed away with Hugh, Brian, and Dave, our bestie, by his side. My story has become quite commonplace, except I know I was one of the lucky ones. I hope I've conveyed some of the anguish and angst that magnifies the stress of a family's end-of-life event. Some partners who are exhausted and financially spent after years of caregiving have to walk away from an overcrowded emergency, leaving the hospital to find a bed for their special someone. Will they see them alive again because there were no choices they could afford? One can only imagine the horror of this. The whole experience was a nightmare, and on that scale of 1 to 10 of danger for the resident and difficulty for the family, the answer was an emotional 10. For me, the upside was the caring and kindness from the staff and caregivers at the Maple, quite remarkable, and my wonderful family and our Maple friends. Today, we're desperate for more local LTC beds. In Steveston, we badly need the Lions Manor rebuilt. We must wake up to this reality now and provide a gentler, more predictable and more affordable sunset for all our seniors, both today and tomorrow when it might be your turn. Our committee supports the Maple Board's efforts to get the Lions Manor rebuilt ASAP. Let's do this now. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay, greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Ann. Okay, we'll move into committee. We have a recommendation on the floor of bylaw to introduce, then give it first reading. And I would so move. And seconded. And I'm going to add number 2, okay, as well as part of the recommendation. It would be a letter be sent to Vancouver Coastal Health, Minister of Health, and local MLAs to say that upon completion of this project, Bridgeport Lions Manor be continued for the provision of long-term care. Second. Okay, so we've got both on the floor. All those in favor? Contrary, carried. I just want to make a comment. Staff, I want to thank you very much for how you've handled that, Sarah and Andrew, and I'm sure other members of staff on it. And to you from the Lions Manor and those that came, thank you very, very much. From now, it'll go to council on Monday night. And having passed a month on Monday night, then 1 month from Monday night, it would go to a public hearing in December. So thank you very much and congratulations. The new village for seniors has arrived. Okay, thank you very much. If you wish to leave, kindly leave. We still have business to do. You can chit-chat out in the hallway. Okay, they can have a good time. All right. Yeah. Okay, updating the permits. Alex and Andrew, come on forward.
How many delegates we had there?
Well, obviously, you have something to add. No, nothing to add? No dissertation?
No dissertation.
Whenever you're ready. We have an in-camera after this, by the way. We do have an in-camera. You got that? Okay, go ahead.
Alrighty, thank you, Mr. Chair. So staff do not have any additional comments beyond the report, but I will highlight a few key points for council. So the report is being brought forward as part of staff's regular monitoring of development controls. Amendments are being proposed to the city's development permit exemption criteria contained in the official community plan to, number 1, update the construction value threshold for exterior renovations from $75,000 to $150,000, and this is to account for inflationary adjustments and to better reflect current construction costs. And secondly, to introduce an exemption for exterior building envelope repairs where work is required due to water ingress and where repairs are comparable to the building's existing form and character. So yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Andy?
Sure, thanks, and through the chair, just a quick one. I mean, it makes sense to me. It hasn't been updated since 2012, so it's going up to 150. And can you just maybe give an example of what an existing, outside kind of renovation would look like?
Through the chair to Councillor Hobbs. Sort of a typical example would be, for example, a commercial building, which is looking for maybe an exterior renovation, a minor exterior renovation, where it's maybe a small element of cladding that needs to be updated. That would be something which would typically fall within this price range, this construction value range. Anything which was more substantive in excess of 150,000 would of course need a development permit.
Yeah, to me, it just makes sense all around, and updating the cost, in terms of inflation, maybe that's something we should look at more often, but certainly timely, so thank you.
Carol, hang on here. There you go.
Thank you so much. I'm looking at timelines. Does this in any way speed up the process? Because I hear over and over and over again from various builders and developers that it just takes too long to get those permits.
Through the chair to Councillor Dare. This would help to expedite the process. So therefore, where you have alterations which are less than 150,000, previously that would have required a development permit. With the amendment in front of council, this would not require it. It wouldn't require a development permit, and the works could be taken as part of a building permit application. So it would help to expedite the process.
Okay, so it will expedite. Perfect.
Alexa?
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you for this report. So my understanding is we're increasing this to reflect the increase in costs of construction. Have we considered changing it to make it even higher? Because some of the changes that we look at, do we even need to look at them? Can we make the threshold higher, still be efficient, still get the job done, and move things along without getting into so much minutia sometimes?
Through the chair to Councillor Liu. When assessing the construction value in front of you, we considered a couple of different things. One was the inflationary increase. We also included a buffer to account for fluctuating prices in the construction industry. Also to, I guess, avoid the situation where we have to keep coming back before council to adjust those values. One of the things staff would look at doing would be the regular monitoring of the construction value to try and keep pace with increases in construction value. And as noted in the report, we did mention this could potentially take place as part of the 5-year OCP update cycle.
Okay. Wayne, there you go.
Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Liu, I would also add that there are other exemptions to the DP criteria. So for an example, if a renovation or addition is in the back of the site, not publicly accessible or publicly within view, that is exempt from a development permit requirement. So there are a number of other exemptions within the OCP beyond just the construction value.
Seconded. All those in favor? Contrary carried. Okay. The last item is World Health Organization membership. So Donna and number 4, please come forward. And do you have anything to add to your presentation?
We have nothing further to add. Thank you, but we're happy.
Seconded. All those in favor? Contrary carried. Thank you very much. Glad you could stay.
Oh, yes, we'll stay.
No. And we have one manager's report. You're done.
You're up. We're up next.
Mr. Cooper.
Mr. Chair, just like to inform committee that Bill 216 did achieve second reading in the provincial legislature on Monday. We will be sending a report to council prior to December 1st, and we'll be presenting in GP on December 1.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you very much. Nothing else from staff? Move adjournment. We are adjourned. We have an in camera. Thank you very much, staff. For those that